All right, I'm going to make a video here. I'm going to try to keep it short on how to set up the boost control solenoids for Holley EFI and the dome pressure sensor. It seems like it's a pretty common question. This is a 100 psi dome pressure sensor, and then here's two of the Holley 3-port boost controllers solenoids. Anyway. This is a mounting panel that a customer brought me with their car, and don't mind the solid state relay. I did a video on that before. I'm just going to try to make you a video here to show you the what I feel is probably the best way to do this. So your boost control solenoids, the first thing, they react a lot faster with a pulse width modulated negative output from the ECU. So the first thing, you got to get power to one of each of these wires off of each solenoid. So I tag them. This is our relay board from Leash Electronics. This is the output. So when a switch on the switch panel in the car, when he presses the switch, it'll apply a 12 volt to that. I'm also going to wind up using a master enable and input so that it will actually enable the boost controller in the software, and then I'm going to also use that as my ECU log trigger input. So anyway, 12 volt on one end, so one wire gets 12 volt. The other wire, these two right here, I was just in the middle of this, but I saw a couple questions come up, so I figured I'd make a quick video. These two right here need to go to an output from the ECU. So if you have an HP, or a Dominator, it doesn't matter. It's got this harness sticking off of it. This is your input-output harness, right? So what you want to do is you want to find two outputs in this harness that are PWM negative. So the easiest thing to do here is go to your outputs. Go to your boost setup page. If you don't already have the boost setup, like in your global, hit Toolbox, add individual configuration. Go down here to boost. Pick what you want to do. I'm going to go over dual port. That's what we got open here. So anyway, there's, I think, one of the people that was asking about this. Anyway, that's already open. We're in your boost setup page. We've got, it pre-configures basically what you need here. Go over here to your input output, and you'll see at the bottom it says boost outputs. They are not defined yet because we haven't put them in the pin map, but you have an increase and a decrease. So boost plus is increase and boost minus is decrease. Boost plus is what's going to add CO2 to the top of the wastegate. Boost minus is what's going to relieve CO2 from the top of the wastegate. And when you have it plumbed, it'll be plumbed like this. This here is your increase, and this is your decrease. So here's your sorry. Here's your to the wastegate, right? And then here's your input from your CO2 bottle. So we've got 12 volt, and now we're just trying to figure out where to put these two wires, okay? So sorry for the shoddy camera work here, but I don't have anybody else to hold the camera. So we enable it. We enable our individual ICF for boost. It'll populate PWM negative. They react a little faster, PWM negative. Once those are created, you go to your input output page. Click there, click on outputs. I'm sorry, we're going to go to pin map. Click on outputs, and you'll see them here. So disregard that, but here's our boost plus. So this is the increase solenoid, and boost minus, right? So click on boost plus. If you have a HP, you're only going to see this top box right here. So this top box is going to be the only one that you actually have available. This car is a Dominator, so we got some, you know, a couple more outputs available. But if you're working with an HP, click and drag them to whatever pins you're going to put them on, okay? So this is the easiest way to do this, in my opinion. So you got B10 and B3, okay? So we're going to run B10, which is our boost increase, which is this solenoid, which is this wire, okay? We're going to run that to B10. If you didn't already print out a copy of the manual, you can go into the help section. So when you go into the help section, go into the wiring manuals and diagrams, go under wire and manuals and diagrams, and start scrolling down. So when you're looking at your HP ECU, this is what you got, okay? J1A, J1B. And if you're in a Dominator, you got a whole bunch more. Scroll down. Here's J1B, right? So find your output. So here's output number 3 is B10, and then output number 4 B3. Those are the two we were looking for from before. And you're going to wire them. Now, back to this little connector. This is sticking out of your main harness with an HP. When I do a Dominator car, I take these out just for simplicity, because you've got the option to get into so much more stuff, so might as well use it. Anyway, if you've bought the wiring harness and then you bought the input-output harness, right here, you should have a pretty long lead sticking out. So you're going to find the pin that correlates with B3 and B10. If you don't want to just look at the harness and find what color is B3 and what color is B10, you can scroll way down to the end of this thing. Sorry, I should have been a little bit more prepared for this. I could have busted out the paper manual and gone over this a little bit quicker, but oh well. So anyway, scroll down, and eventually, all the way at the bottom, there you go, main harness. All right, so pin B3, gray with green, okay? Gray with green stripe. That's the same color that's right here, right there, which also corresponds with your input-output harness, okay? It's gray with green. B10, where are we at with B10? B10 is gray with black. What you'll do is you'll run your gray with green and your gray with black over to your boost control solenoids. That's wiring them. That's all you got to do to wire them. They're very simple, you know, but that switched power seems to be a pretty common question. As for the dome pressure sensor, right here, you got 3 wires coming off of it. Only one of them is going to go to your input-output harness, okay? So if you bought a Holley sensor, it came with this little pigtail on it, okay? 3 wires. So black is your sensor ground. Orange is your 5-volt reference. And pink is your actual signal, okay? So if we're going to go, we need to go find an input. So we'll create an input for dome pressure. So in order to create an input for dome pressure, go to your input-output screen, and there's a bunch of stuff in here, but disregard it. Dome pressure, type is 5 volt, okay, because it's a 5 volt reference 100 psi pressure transducer. Click enable, click configure. Just make sure you change it to type Holley 100 PSI stainless steel. Once you have done that, you go back into your pin map right there, and I'm in a different tune file. Hold on. Nope. There we go. Now you go back into your pin map, and there it is, dome pressure, 5 volts. So it's got a little 5. Do the same thing you did with your outputs. So drag it to whichever one you want. So we'll go to A3, okay? If you, again, don't know what color A3 is, click here, go back to your help section. Remember, the outputs are on J1B. Your inputs are on A. So scroll up a little bit, and I think we picked A3 right here. So that's white with red, okay? White with red is now going to go into this pink wire, okay? So you've got your output harness. Here it is coming off your main harness. There's your white with red wire, okay? It plugs into this, and you've got a white with red. So it's pretty straightforward. The most common question I think out there is, what do I do with the 5 volt reference and the sensor ground? So your orange and your black. Well, if you look back here in this manual, all right, you'll see, which pin is it? I'm sorry, I don't remember these off the top of my head. It's been a rather long weekend. But you'll have sensor ground right here, okay? So sensor ground is black with a white stripe, okay? That's in your main harness, A18. If you look at this diagram, you'll see that it tags off and goes to quite a few different sensors. That's the way it's supposed to be. There's no load on this. It's just a sensor ground. There's 0 load on it. So what you'll have to do is tie into your main harness and tap into that. Don't use those T-taps or vampire clips or any of that stuff. You know, you can strip it back, solder it, a bunch of different ways, but I'm not gonna tell you how to wire it. Just don't use those cheap garbage T-taps or vampire clips, whatever you wanna call them. So your sensor ground out wire will be black with a white stripe, and you'll go to the black wire on your transducer. Now, this is all the same for any one of these transducers, okay? So any of these 5 volt transducers are gonna work the exact same way. So whether it be converter charge pressure or transmission pressure, coolant pressure, anything that you can think of, this is how you're going to wire them. They all can share that same sensor ground off of A18. And the same thing goes for your 5 volt out. So right here, sensor 5 volt reference out, orange, okay? That is on A26, right there, okay? So same thing, tag your orange wire to it. Holley does a pretty good job at making sure the colors match, so that if you were to just take the loom off of the harness, you look in there and kind of connect the dots. You can tag as many of these as you want together. The only input that you'll use is a single one for this wire. I hope this kind of helps setting up or wiring the boost controller setup and dome pressure setup. All right, see it.